Good morning. My name is Becky, and I am our worship associate for today. And I welcome you all to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Binghamton. All are welcome who come in peace, no matter who you are or whom you love. Here we join together with open hearts and minds to worship together, seeking what is sacred among us. We are excited to have you join us online or in person. For you joining us online, we encourage you to open the chat on Zoom. We will use this for our joys and sorrows, and the elements of the service will be posted there as they occur, and you can also get support from our stream team. We welcome any newcomers who have joined us and invite you to check out our website at uubinghamton.org. And for those who are here in person, we invite you to stop by our welcome table for more information. Please direct your attention to the announcements page with the order of service. And then I do have one additional announcement, which is that this morning we are pleased to once again have Tret Fury here providing some of our special music for this service. So at this point, we invite you to offer a gesture of peace to each other as we begin our service. And again, welcome.
Good morning. I appreciate being invited back, and thank you so much for your appreciation of that. I am sitting in this circle with my humble guides, surrounded by the ones I love, protected on all sides, breathing out and breathing in, and holding all that's fine. Though the world around me shatters, I center on this time. If for just one moment we are still beneath the dark and the dreary, we could shine a light so strong we may not feel so weary. For just one moment we are still beneath the dark and the dreary, if we could shine a light so strong we may not feel so weary. Breathing out and breathing in, and holding all that's fine. Though the world around me shatters, I center on this time. For I am sitting in this circle with my humble guides, surrounded by the ones I love, protected on all sides.
In the beginning, God created music. The earth was without form and void, and silence was upon the grace of the deep, and the breath of God was moving through the mists quietly. And God said, "Let there be sound," and there was sound. And sound found God's ears, and God's ears were unstopped.
And God said, "Good. Now let there be silence, and let there be sound." And God separated the two at the end of the first day. And God said, "Let there be high sounds and low sounds." So God created a scale, and everything above middle C God called high. And everything below middle C God separated off from the signs above and called them low. And it was so.
And there was evening and there was morning, the second day. And God said, "Let high sounds and low sounds be gathered together into small groups, and let tunes appear." And it was so.
God called the tunes melody, but notes without form God called noise. And God said, "Let melody put forth different forms, each pleasing in its own way, and let variations spring forth from seed motifs to develop into fruitful trees of tunes in which is their own seed, each according to its kind." And it was so.
And there was evening and there was morning, the third day. And God said, "Let there be rhythm." God made different lengths of notes. And God then mixed the short and the long notes together around steadily pounding beats. And so God got rhythm.
And God said, "I'll tap my foot on the floor of the universe." And the thunder of God's tapping foot rolled all creation to rhythms, each of its own kind.
And God said, "This feels good."
And our covenant. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is its life. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. The chalice is the container, the space where the musicians and the listeners gather. The oil is the fuel, the hours of practice and the life experiences of everyone in the room. The wick is the instruments and vocal cords through which the music will flow. And the flame, is the music which is created as if by magic when the instruments are lifted, the breath is inhaled, and the downbeat is nodded. May this flame ignite the music within us all. Please join in singing hymn number 36, When in Our Music.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to tell a story, but the children do not have to come up here, okay? This is a story for everybody. It's Abi Yo-Yo. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, there was this little boy learning to play the ukulele, and he loved to play it, but it didn't sound very good. Kerplunk, 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 kerplunk. And people would say, "Go away, we're talking." Kerplunk, kerplunk, kerplunk. He was very annoying. His father was a magician, and he had this magic wand that he could make things disappear. Whoop, zoop, it was gone. So he was also a practical joker who really did not have a good sense of timing. So he would do things like, you would be taking a nice tall drink of something, zoop, the glass would disappear. Or you'd be sawing a piece of wood, and your saw, zoop, would disappear. Well, that was annoying enough, but what was really not funny at all was when you worked all day long and you came home to sit down, zoop, the chair disappeared. At that point, the townspeople said, "Enough already. Get out of here. You and your son, take your ukulele, your magic wand, get out." And they were banished. So they left. Ostracized as they were, they went all the way to the edge of town. Well, the people in this town like to tell stories, and they told stories a lot about monsters and giants. And their favorite story of all was Abi Yo-Yo, because he was so big, as tall as a house. He was at least 9 feet tall. And he had a gnarly face because he never washed it. And he had really smothery teeth because he never brushed them. And he had matted hair because he never combed it. But the thing about him that was most distinctive was he ate people up. He ate all kinds of things. Well, anyway, this one day, the sun rose, but there was this great shadow. And there was this stomping, boom, boom, boom. And people knew what it was, and they began to scream and cry and run away, and brave men fainted. The little boy, way on the side, the edge of town, woke up, rubbing his eyes, saying, "What's that, Dad? I feel it." And his father said, "Oh, that's Abi Yo-Yo. I wish I could get him to lie down. If I could get him to lie down, I could make him disappear." And the little boy said, "I know what to do." And he took his ukulele and he grabbed his father's hand and he said, "Let's go." So they went right up to Abi Yo-Yo. And everybody in the town was saying, "Get away! He eats you! You're going to die!" And they weren't afraid at all. The little boy got right up in front of Abi Yo-Yo and he took his ukulele, kerplunk, 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 and he began to sing. He sang, "Abi Yo-Yo, Abi Yo-Yo, Abi Yo-Yo, yo, yo, yo." And as he sang, this ugly monster began to smile because he'd never had a song sung to him before ever. And as he sang, and the boy played, "Abi Yo-Yo," he began to sway back and forth, and then he began to turn around, and he turned around, and Abi Yo-Yo was sung faster. Abi Yo-Yo, yo-yo, yo-yo-yo. And he got dizzy, and he was swaggering, and he fell down flat on his face, and you know what happened then? Zoop! He disappeared. And the townspeople, wow, they cheered, "Yay!" And by the way, you're welcome back anytime, and you can bring your ukulele and sing for us anytime you'd like. And so it was. Abi Yo-Yo.
So now is the time for our morning offering. And for today, we actually have a special collection. So today, our special collection is going to Family Planning of the Southern Tier. Their mission is to advocate and provide individuals, families, and organizations in our region with information, education, and healthcare services pertaining to human sexuality and reproductive health in a private and confidential manner, respectful of all beliefs, supporting individual freedom of choice and responsibility. You can participate by finding the donate button at the top of our website, uubinghamton.org. Or if you are here in person, our ushers will move along the center aisle to receive your donation. This morning's special collection offering will now be gratefully received.
This is basically an abbreviated story of my life, and it's all true. At 12 years I am newly formed, waking in the light, my first guitar in hand, my first real dream in sight. I knew that I was meant for more than 9 to 5 foot answers. I chose to let my heartstrings sound. At 18 I am on my way, I left my home behind, traveling farther than I'd been, a newfound sense of time. Lucky in my liberty with luxury left behind, I wouldn't have it any other way. The calling of the artist way is never much a choice, and if you choose a steeper path, following your voice, rewards are more than rent that's paid, pretty clothes and cars. To me there is no greater joy than playing my guitar. At 35 I had a band, electric fingers flew, heading out for weeks on end. We were music through and through. We played in major concert halls, the crowds were all on fire, and all my perfect dreams were coming true. The calling of the artist way is never much a choice, and if you choose a steeper path, following your voice, rewards are more than rent that's paid, pretty clothes and cars. To me there is no greater joy than playing my guitar. Playing my guitar. Playing my guitar. Playing my guitar. And now I'm in my 70s, my journey still unfolds. I take my music everywhere, I'm always on the road. And though I long for home, to sleep in my own bed, I'd probably dream of this hard life instead. The calling of the artist way is never much a choice, and if you choose a steeper path, following your voice, rewards are more than rent that's paid, pretty clothes and cars. To me there is no greater joy than playing my guitar. 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 Playing my guitar, playing my guitar, playing my guitar.
Good morning. My name's Becky Liddell, and I have a short story to tell you. 18 months ago, my life partner passed away, and it was really a tough time. About a year ago, Tret was performing in Oxford, and I had gotten an invitation to go, but I don't drive at night, and it was an hour and a half to get there, and I didn't go. So I decided to binge on her music. I listened to everything I could listen to, watched every video that I could see. Shortly after that, I had a dream. And my partner was with me, my partner Sandy, and we were going to Tret's house to have chicken for dinner. And we get there, and she said, "No, the chicken's cooking, you can't come in." So Sandy said, "I'm going for a walk," and I went to lay down in the grass. So I laid down in the grass, and I fell asleep. When I woke up, in the dream, Tret was holding me, and she held me tight. And I went to get up, and she said, "No, Sandy is gone. You have to let her go, and it's time for you to move on." And I couldn't. And she just said, "Trust, you can move on." And I did. And I appreciate you, and thank you for your music and just your essence, because it comes through your music.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pat Rombolo. I think you probably know that. So I've heard a lot of suggestions for how to help yourself when things are weighing down your spirit, but generally people don't say, "Go sing with the choir." But when I do, I always feel better. So when I told Vicki that singing in the choir lifted me up, I agreed to share some other times in my life when I felt at a loss and music helped me. So 44 years ago, my first child cried a lot. No matter what I did, nursing her, wrapping her in a sling, rocking her, nothing helped. She cried inconsolably for hours. So I was at my wit's end and feeling not very confident or competent as a mother. So one night my husband picked her up. She was still really little, like in the first couple months of her life, and plopped her on his hip with facing out. So her head and her arms were hanging over his arm like this. And I said, "That's not how you hold a baby." And he put on music from the Police. And, Sting, the Police, okay, Walking on the Moon. And he starts dancing and bouncing. And I'm thinking, no, just out like a light in a minute. And I might have started crying then from relief. Then in later years, when my youngest child was 16, his best friend died unexpectedly. He was devastated. He became withdrawn. He couldn't talk about what he was going through, and I didn't know how to reach him or comfort him. Then he picked up an old guitar that we had laying around the house. It wasn't great, so then we bought him one that fit him better. And he sat in his room for hours teaching himself to play guitar. And he played and played songs again and again until his fingers were raw. But then they toughened up, and he gradually began opening up to his life again. And he continued playing his guitar for many years. One of the first songs he learned was Blackbird, and despite hearing it probably a million times in those dark days, I still love hearing him play it, and I'm really grateful for the music. In 2019, soon after I joined the choir here, I accompanied my husband Dana to the Cleveland Clinic for open heart surgery. At the same time, his father was critically ill, but he encouraged us to go on this trip anyway. It was necessary. And When I notified the whole family that the surgery went well, Dana's dad was able to hear the news. And the next morning he died. And given my husband's medical circumstances, the nurse advised me to wait a while before telling him. And we would also miss the funeral. Although none of this was unexpected, it was still a difficult and very sad situation. I had just learned in the choir, filled with loving kindness. And so, amidst all the bright lights and the beeping in the ICU, when I told Dana about his dad, I sang this song to him. Some of you know this one. 15 years ago, my family built a lakeside cottage, doing a lot of the work ourselves. It was a dream come true. Unfortunately, at one point, Dana and I became the targets of some really vicious verbal attacks by some hostile neighbors, which left us feeling really uneasy at our cottage. We actually considered selling the property. Then, last summer, I invited the choir to come up to my cottage for a picnic, and they kindly agreed to sing some camp songs with me. As the songs went out over the water, it was transformative. The music rekindled a sense of peace and gratitude in this beautiful place. And now I'm excited to share my cottage again for a Dining for Dollars event this summer in July, and no singing is required unless you want to. Coming closer to the present, earlier this year, I developed Bell's palsy, which impacted talking, eating, drinking, even brushing my teeth and sleeping. I couldn't close my right eye, so only my left eye blinked, and my kids called that the lizard blink. The week that it happened, the choir was preparing to sing with a guest soloist, and it was a beautiful song, and I really wanted to sing. Amazingly, I could sing without a problem, despite the difficulty talking and all the other things. I had a hard time with my mouth. It was one of our best performances. It was so moving and uplifting being a part of it. Although I'm not fully recovered, I feel like my old self when I'm singing with the choir. To borrow from today's song to music, you cheer my heart. I go renewed, refreshed, restored. Thank you.
For our meditation today, I will share a spoken meditation from a speech by Carl Palnick, followed by a time of shared silence, and then the singing of hymn 123, Spirit of Life. On September 12th, 2001, I was a resident of Manhattan. That morning, I reached a new understanding of my art and its relationship to the world. I sat down at the piano that morning at 10 a.m. to practice, as was my daily routine. I did it by force of habit, without thinking about it. I lifted the cover on the keyboard and opened my music and put my hands on the keys and took my hands off the keys. And I sat there and thought, does this even matter? Isn't this completely irrelevant? Playing the piano right now, given what happened in this city yesterday, seems silly, absurd, irreverent, pointless. Why am I here? What place has a musician in this moment in time? Who needs a piano player right now? I was completely lost. And then I, along with the rest of New York, went through the journey of getting through that week. I did not play the piano that day, and in fact, I contemplated briefly whether I would ever want to play the piano again. And then I observed how we got through the day. At least in my neighborhood, we didn't shoot hoops or play Scrabble. We didn't play cards to pass the time. We didn't watch TV. We didn't shop. We most certainly did not go to the mall. The first organized activity that I saw in New York that same day was singing. People sang. People sang around firehouses. People sang, "We shall overcome." Lots of people sang "America the Beautiful." The first organized public event that I remember was the Brahms Requiem later that week at Lincoln Center with the New York Philharmonic. The first organized public expression of grief, our first communal response to that historic event, was a concert. That was the beginning of a sense that life might go on. The US military secured the airspace, but recovery was led by the arts and by music in particular that very night. I have come to understand that music is not part of arts and entertainment as the newspaper section would have us believe. It's not a luxury, a lavish thing that we fund from leftovers of our budgets, not a plaything or an amusement or a pastime. Music is a basic need of human survival. Music is one of the ways that we make sense of our lives, one of the ways in which we express our feelings when we have no words, a way for us to understand things with our hearts when we can't with our minds.
Good morning. I'm Christine, and music has brought me joy all of my life. There was always music in our house growing up, and being an Army brat, we moved many, many times. And one of the first things we would always do was to find my new piano teacher. A favorite holiday memory was my dad blasting "Joy to the World" on Christmas morning, or "Up from the grave he arose" on Easter, singing along as loud as he could, usually out of key, but always with great joy and enthusiasm. Years later, I would find that the old hymns, musical numbers from our favorite shows, and tunes from the Depression era could help my mom's mood turn on a dime when she was in the throes of dementia. As the disease slowly took away her joy, an old song could instantly brighten her up. I loved participating with all of the residents in her retirement village during music therapy. People who seemed nearly catatonic would appear to grow taller in their wheelchairs as familiar songs began. The light would return to their eyes, fingers and toes began tapping, and smiles returned to their faces. Music has also been a big part of my own family. I loved having the kids guess the songs and artists we would listen to on many long road trips between New York and North Carolina. I was determined that they would be well-versed in my favorite 60s and 70s rock and would have a thorough knowledge and appreciation of the Beatles and Fleetwood Mac. They, in turn, made sure I wasn't totally ignorant of the music of Green Day and My Chemical Romance. And although my daughter Alex would probably say I only correctly identify the difference between Fallout and Weezer 50% of the time, at best, I do have a greater appreciation of their music. Charlie did his best to help me develop an appreciation of rap and was very careful to screen songs before playing them for me. He had a good sense of what I could and couldn't handle. And although I probably still don't have a great appreciation of rap, one of the greatest treasures I have is a rap he wrote and recorded not long before he died. Whenever I need to hear his voice, I can always play it and have him with me. While he was battling with depression, he would often turn to music. I was surprised when he wanted to go to the movies with me and Alex and see La La Land, and he loved it. It wasn't even being facetious. He would listen to the song, City of Stars, over and over again, and I would hold him while he cried. I never understood why that song touched him so deeply, but I will be forever grateful to my dear friend Lily for honoring him by singing the song so beautifully at his celebration of life. I created a playlist of songs starting with City of Stars that remind me of him, that I often listen to when I need comfort or a good soul-cleansing cry. Music does indeed move my soul and heal my heart over and over again. It's been a great pleasure joining the choir and hearing and interpreting music in our wonderful way under Vicky's incredible direction. I'm having so much fun. Being part of the ukulele ladies, I can say that, with Bryn, the kazoo band, and singing with Darlene in the Review have been truly joyful blessings. And probably my all-time favorite music activity is just being in community with friends, playing instruments and singing good old folk and rock songs, whether it be with my mountain family in western North Carolina or my family at Unirondack. In my heart, it don't get much more spiritual than that.
Hi, everybody. Can I just take this? Am I allowed to wander? I'm a wanderer. Hi, my name is Sarah, and I am ridiculously overqualified to speak on this topic. I am a highly trained classical clarinet player. And then in my 20s, I decided not to play the clarinet anymore, and I moved into musical academia, and I am now a doctor of musicology and a tenured professor at Binghamton University with some special expertise in trauma that's sort of peripheral to this conversation, if I could use the word peripheral. I've worked on how Irish famine trauma shaped music making in the United States in the 19th century. I'm also, and I'll say it today, partially because I'm just a really honest person, but also because it's Mother's Day, that I'm a kind of a badass mom. I don't think my kids would always say that, but I have helped a lot of kids through the process of healing from their own traumas along the way. And music plays a role, of course, in what Andrew and I do with our kids, as you might imagine. I was also like this when I was a kid. I'm one of those people who was like, before my mom talks about how before I could talk when I was a baby, I was singing, and I didn't know that there were words, but I was like, la, 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 la. And if there was a pianist anywhere, I would just refuse to leave that place. I was just always obsessed with music. Even when I was a kid, knew I was going to be a musician, just had to figure out how. And then growing up, my first instrument was the violin in the 3rd grade, and I would not be able to wait until my parents woke up so I would walk into their bedroom at like 5:30 in the morning playing my violin and talking about how happy it made me. Yeah. So that was me. That was me as a kid, pretty nerdy, playing the violin, then the clarinet, really into musical theater. I had like a New Kids on the Block phase. I was born in 1980, so it's really easy to figure out how old I was during certain, fads. So I'm gonna fast forward. This story is actually about me at 12. So I was 12 in 1992. And in 1992, pop culture was having an angsty moment. There was a lot of really depressive, angry music at the time. I was a little young for my grade, so I was in the 8th grade in 1992. And I just went all in. I went from being a nerdy clarinet-playing math geek to like an all-black, wearing, big fan of Seattle grunge music, loved heavy metal music, was absolutely obsessed with Pearl Jam, like papered my walls in the ways that only 12 and 13-year-old girls do, with like pictures of Eddie Vedder everywhere, and would doodle the little band logos on my notes. Just went really all in on it. And I loved it, and I was really into it. The adults in my life. This is a really important point. It's not, but it's interesting. I had dreadlocks. I was living in suburban Delaware, upper middle class Delaware. Literally, like most of my friends who were female had cotillions, like that kind of a place. And I had dreadlocks, and I wore all black, and I didn't wash my hair for a couple of months in there. Consequently, also kind of irrelevantly, there are no pictures, like not one, not one, from like 8 months. So adults were watching this, and they were growing concerned. My teachers had a meeting with my parents because they were worried that I had a drug addiction. I did not. But they were very worried about me, and understandably so. Here's the part where I say there was something going on with me, obviously. I was listening to songs and repeating lyrics like, exit, light, enter, night. And my bitter hands cave beneath the clouds of what was everything. Very depressive stuff. And there definitely was something going on in my life, and I don't even think I need to share too much with the congregation here to convey what I want to convey about how music can be such an incredibly meaningful healing element in our lives. I can say that I was processing a lot of pain, and a lot of pain without a lot of community around me. At the wrong moment in adolescence, at 12 years old, when we are very vulnerable. I remember the 8th grade and the way that our brains process traumatic memories. I have visceral feelings instead of like narratives. I literally can't tell you many stories of like this happened and then this happened and this happened. I have a lot of sensory memories. I remember what that hair felt like. I remember what it felt like to have dirty hair. I remember the clumps in my hair. I remember the pain. I remember how emotional pain translates into physical pain and starts to prevent you physically from being able to do things. I also remember the power that I felt when the wall of sound envelops you when you listen to that kind of music. I remember the power that I got from wearing combat boots. I'm wearing my, just to prove that this actually did exist. I do still have combat boots that I don't wear very often these days, but I wore them today. I just remember mostly how deeply that music moved me during that time. Today, as a professor, I can tell you that music making engages parts of the brain that we use to store traumatic memories. And it is these brain processes that scholars connect to its healing powers. I can tell you that it also separately, but also interconnectedly, just engages healing systems. It regulates our nervous system. It helps our hearts and our lungs regulate themselves when we become emotionally dysregulated. We also have mirror neurons, which is something neuroscientists have become fascinated with more recently, such that when we watch people doing things, there are systems in our bodies and in our brains that respond as if we are doing that thing. So when Tret plays such beautiful, heartfelt music, she's literally providing us with the experience she is so well singing and playing about. Also, however, musicologists, which is what I am, I'm not a neuroscientist, I'm a musicologist, study how music works within community. And music is an inherently a communicative act. I don't like to say that it's a universal language because there is no universal language and there is no universally applicable music, much as I do love Beethoven. But it does establish a community, even if you're listening to it alone. And I think for me, in that year, when I most needed music and I was most significantly using music to heal, the important thing for me was that there were people out there who felt the way I felt, and there was a community for me out there that did not involve cotillions or Gap jeans or whatever. That was really important for me, and it communicated that to me in some of my darkest moments. And in that way, and in that year, music really saved me. And even though I am now a classical music nerd most of the time, I return to the meaning of that music, and that music, Pearl Jam, is still the music for which I am most grateful in my life, and it's still been the most intense experience I've had with music, is loving and listening to that music in particular. So that's about all I've got. Thank you very much.
This is Keith Jarrett. He's just a fabulous jazz pianist. And it is from his 1975 recording, the Köln concert. It's an outdoor venue in Köln, Germany, and it was just Keith Jarrett at a grand piano and an audience. This is just one of my all-time favorite pieces of music. In that year, 1975, I was depressed. I was still struggling to understand my father's suicide. I'd had a bad breakup, and I was doing really poorly in college. But music continued to be a major part of my life. I wanted to become a recording engineer, but I learned that moving from a small town in Ohio to a large city, Phoenix, Arizona, was really difficult to find desirable jobs. There was a lot more competition with a lot of people with much more experience than myself. This piece is only one of 4 on the album. It's 26 minutes long. So things are going to run a little late this morning. Our music director's eyes just went. I have listened to this many, many, many times, and it's usually in a darkened room, alone, with the stereo turned up, pretty loud. Those 26 minutes run the breadth of emotions: sadness, anger, rejuvenation, joy. In the first few years since the release of that album, I typically listened to it when I was depressed. But as the years have gone on, I want to listen to it when I'm in a meditative state. Nothing else but the music. It has provided me great comfort, but what does that really mean? I think some music just magically resonates with me. Even without lyrics, music connects with me, or maybe it's my soul, although that's getting a bit too new age for my taste. Music offers a transcendent experience, connection, whether it's with me, another audience member, or perhaps the musicians themselves. You can hear this in Keith Jarrett's performance as that he is connecting with his music. He occasionally sings along, but singing is stretching that word a bit in this case. He sort of grunts and loudly hums along with what he's improvising. These vocalizations weren't scripted as far as I can tell. He seems to do this spontaneously, demonstrating his transcendence with his own music. And I'm also touched by his creation. The emotions he's improvising morph into my emotions based on my life's experiences. How does his music, his inspiration, connect with me so deeply, even though we have never met? I have no idea, but I know it does.
Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing hymn number 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song. And now, may the rhythms of our coming together, the melodies of our worship, and the harmonies of our farewells make musical our living, soothe our spirits, and uplift our souls, this day and into the beckoning future.